Welcome to another episode of the Just Elite podcast. I'm your host, Christelle, and with me today is your 2023 fittest woman on earth, Kari Pearce. Kerry, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me. A little bit of a disappointing end to your season. I know you've spoken about it, and sorry for not being able to compete this year. The first games that you've missed since 2015. Just shortly, tell us that day when that happened. What was going through your mind?
So my teammate and amazing friend, Bethany Shadburn, actually tested positive for COVID on Monday. And when she tested positive, I was feeling great. I was feeling fine. Monday night, I started to feel a little off, but my coach and stuff was like, it's just stress. Like, you're stressed out because, Bethany, like, your really good friend and teammate basically just tested positive. So, she's out of the competition. Tuesday felt fine, felt great. Then Tuesday night, same thing. And he's like, stressed, whatever. But then Wednesday, I ended up showing up. And since Bethany had tested positive, me and Danielle had to get a COVID test every day because we were in the same car together. So Danielle, her test came back negative, and I saw them like walking, because we separated each other, like from each other. We were in separate cars and everything, just because we didn't want to further risk anything. So we're like, okay, from here on out, like, we're going to keep our space. And then I saw someone like walking up to my car, and I didn't know they wouldn't walk up to your car if you didn't test positive, but they hadn't before. Like, it's through an app and it just shows up green, you're good to go. And so when I saw them walking up, I was like, oh no. So they came and they're like, yeah, your first test was positive. We want to do another test. So obviously, like, emotions hit, like, started crying and everything. But they're like, we don't know yet that you have a second chance. But then a few minutes after the second sample was taken, they're like, it looks like it's going to be positive. So they're like, you have to like get all your things and leave the campus. I mean, I didn't have anything at the venue because it was the first day of competition. We were getting ready to do the swim kayak event. But after Bethany had tested positive, I kind of like warned myself, because we spent so much time together and everything, that I was like, okay, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see.
And then obviously you had to go into isolation and, spend that time alone. Now, after getting that devastating news the day of competition, what do you say to yourself? You're like, what did you do, that time that you were alone, knowing that competition started and you so close? You basically had your feet in the water the day before, and now you have to isolate. What goes through your mind? What went through your mind?
Yeah. Well, my feet were in the water because we went swimming. Just kidding. I don't know, like the initial shock of it. Yeah, it's just like, you don't even know what to think. You don't even know how to feel, because you've been working this whole year to compete at the CrossFit Games. I mean, it was amazing competing at West Coast Classic. Like, I had so much fun competing with Bethany and Danielle, because we train together on a daily basis. And it was such a phenomenal experience. And we were able to finish first, second, and third at the semifinal. And we're feeling good. Like, we had been training hard almost basically every day together, doing everything together. And then, like I said, and then knowing Bethany was out, and then it was kind of like, okay, well, we'll see, what happens. And then just trying to soak in, like, okay, we just did all of that work and we wanted it to show off. And it was going to be so much fun, like, competing with the three of us. I think that was what I was actually like most excited for, was just to take the floor with those girls and see their hard work pay off, because they've both come so far, like within the last even like 6 months, mentally and physically. So I was really excited for them. But yeah, at the beginning, you can't really like gather your thoughts and feelings and everything. And I didn't really watch any of the competition except the men's snatch ladder and then the final event, just to see how everything played out, because I wanted to see the girl. Like, I know a lot of the girls, very well, just from competing with them for 6 years. So I wanted to see how it finished out, but I didn't have it in me to watch the rest of the competition.
Was it just too painful?
A part of it, because I was like, I'm supposed to be on the competition floor. So it definitely sucks when you're stuck in a bedroom by yourself. And for me, like, because people were like, oh, symptom wise, whatever. I was like, it was like 2 bad days, like Wednesday and Thursday. Like, later on Wednesday when I originally tested positive, I didn't feel bad. Like, I felt fine. And then later in the day, I was just like tired. So it was part of fatigue that I didn't watch on Wednesday. Thursday was obviously their off day. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I didn't want to watch because I knew I should be there and I wanted to be there competing because all the work was done. It was like ready to go. But I mean, everything happens for a reason. So
how ill were you? Did you have bad symptoms?
just on Wednesday and Thursday, like just like body aches, chills, tired. And then after that, I was like still like tired and like loss of smell and some taste, but other than that, fine.
And when you eventually started training again, when you recovered and you were out of isolation or quarantine and being able to, get back into the gym, did you feel funny? Did you, feel a little bit more tired than usual? Any other side effects?
I don't think it was side effects from COVID. I basically took a month off of training. So I think it was just being out of shape. So I think that was it more than like COVID, because I made sure, like, obviously, like, you're in isolation, you make sure you're like full on recovered. And I always take time off after the game. So I was like, even though I didn't get to compete, like my mind and my body both need more rest. So I still like did some fun workouts, but nothing crazy intense or nothing CrossFit style. I love bodybuilding stuff. So I did some of that. And then I just did some like light jogs or light bike rides, like things like that, just to enjoy, but not worry about like paces or times, just because, training for the CrossFit Games is so mentally taxing that I was like, my mind just needs a break. But I decided to get back in like a little bit sooner than I normally would, like after the games, because number one, like my body, I didn't compete. So I felt like I could get in. It ended up being like 2 weeks after the games, which looked like that was when a lot of games athletes like started training again. Like I said, I would have taken longer. But I did decide to compete at the Rogue Invitational, which is the end of October. So I was like, okay, I need to like get back in and see how my body's feeling. And I was like, I'm going to do a week of training and then like evaluate. And I was like, okay, like I feel good comparatively, like my lungs and breathing, like everything like that feels fine, just out of shape, but it's not like wheezing or anything. So I was like, I'll be good to go in a couple months.
Yeah. You spoke about mental fatigue and how training for the games, is such a mental thing as it is a physical thing. And then having such a disappointing end to your season, how do you recover from that mentally and then start building up to another competition that is around the corner?
Yeah. So I often tell people, like, for me personally, like a lot of people, their bodies and minds like work in different ways. For me personally, I think my mind always takes more of a beating than my body. Like, obviously, people see the physical aspect of it, but during the training, during the games, during any major competition or the time leading up to it, it is very mentally taxing because, people are like, oh, well, your life is great. Like, you're an athlete, you get to train all the time and whatever. I'm like, but it's not like you get to train all the time. Like, you have to train 100% all the time. Like, you have to push your body to the max multiple times a day. And it's different than just like going to the gym and working out. And there's definitely days, like anybody else, that you're not motivated. So, you have to play into the discipline and having coaches and other people, that are counting on you to go to the gym and do your best. So for me, like, I'm always like, it's more mentally taxing. And I personally believe at the CrossFit Games, the people that end up on the podium or that do well are the mentally toughest. Everybody's super physically gifted and talented and works hard in the gym and very physically fit. But on game day, you have to be mentally tough and you have to deliver when you're supposed to, and you have to push yourself and get out of your comfort zone. So I'm a big believer of like mental toughness is as big of a factor or bigger than the physical component. And then, as you said, like just the disappointing end of the season. I obviously it was disappointing, but at the end of the day, like, I have to realize life is bigger than CrossFit. And I think as much as it sucked, like not competing at the CrossFit Games, I felt so blessed that so many people reached out and were like, I hope you're doing okay. You're feeling well. Like, it was much more than, well, I'm sorry you're not competing at the CrossFit Games. Like, and I think that was like, obviously you have to find the silver lining in everything. And I definitely think that was one of the silver lining pieces for me this year.
When we speak about physical recovery after like competition or hard training, there's certain things that you do to recover your body. You don't train as hard. There's more mobility involved. You can go see, some therapist. But when it comes to your mental exhaustion, mental toughness, what do you do? How do you switch off your brain, recover, and go into the next season, for example? Because it is kind of off season now, but you have the Rogue Invitational, which is a very, very big competition. It's a very exciting competition to watch. So you're training towards something already.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like mentally recovering, it's just getting out of the gym. Don't do anything that's like related to pacing or anything. Like I love working out, and that's kind of like my outlet. So I still have to work out. I still have to do something, but I'm not like, okay, I'm gonna do like 3 by 1 mile at this pace, or I'm gonna do a 5K at this pace, or I'm going to CrossFit. I'm gonna do this Metcon, and I'm gonna watch a clock. Like I might do workouts and stuff, but I'm like, I'm not gonna watch a clock. I'm not gonna go for a certain pace. Like I'm just gonna enjoy it, because so much of our year and our season is based off of going to the max or hitting certain paces and doing certain things. And I mean, I love it because it's cool, because you can see yourself getting fitter and the hard work paying off. But there's also a time of year where you just need to not focus on the performance aspect. And it's getting out of the gym, it's not watching CrossFit. And like even me and my teammates, we were talking, because we're like, we didn't really like talk much to each other during our time off. And I think that's part of it too. Like we're all really good friends, and we're obviously very close because we spend a lot of hours together in the gym. But it's important to, I feel like, just like get that outlet, because when you see your teammates, then you automatically think like CrossFit, or it's hard not to talk about CrossFit. So it's like I went on a family vacation with my family, and yes, like, we still talked about CrossFit and stuff, but it's kind of just like mentally getting away from it and realizing, like I said, there's more to life than CrossFit. I love it. Have been competing in it a long time, but I'm like more than a CrossFit athlete, and I have to like, sometimes remind myself of that.
You've been in this sport for many years, and you made it to the games in 2015, crossfitting only for less than a year, where other people go for their whole lives to make it there. So obviously you are a phenomenal athlete. Your gymnastics background. Talk to us about how you got to the Underdogs Athletics, how you ended up in Vegas with this team. An amazing team. It's growing, and I spoke to Justin the other day, and he said, the coming season, you guys are really, really expanding. So how did that happen? How did you join that team?
So for me, I met Justin Cutler actually like right when I started CrossFit. So right at the beginning of 2015. Like you said, I started CrossFit in November 2014, and then was able to make regionals and the CrossFit Games my first year. And I met Justin, who is, the owner of Underdog Athletics, through actually a college teammate. And she had been doing CrossFit, and then she did Grid League, which was something very similar to CrossFit. And she's like, Kerry, you need to try CrossFit. You need to try CrossFit. And I kept telling her, no, like, I don't want anything to do with gymnastics. I'm done. And she's like, it's not like tumbling, it's handstands and pulls, like very basic things. But I was just like, no, no, no. And finally I saw it on ESPN one day. I'm like, okay, I should start. So when I decided to do CrossFit, that teammate was like, you need to meet my coach, Justin Cutler, because he lives in New York. You're in New York. And his gym was about 45 minutes away from where I was at. So it was an easy trip she's like, you need to pick his brain. Like, he's an amazing coach. He's coached a lot of great athletes and teams, and, he's just been around. So you need to talk to him. So like I said, I met him back then. At the time, I was at another gym. I had another coach. So I worked with that coach through like October of 2018. And I just wasn't growing the way that I wanted. And so I sat down with Justin Cutler and talked to him for like 3 hours. And we were just on the same page for everything, like my performance, where I wanted to work on, things that were good. And I told him I wanted to get on the podium. And so he's like, I like that plan. He's like, he is such a great coach. He's only willing to work with athletes that are going to put in the time and work. Like, if you're halfway going to do it, he's not going to work with you. And I think that's really what drew me in, was he was all in. So I've been working with Justin since October of 2018. And during COVID, he owned a gym in New York, and the gym was shut down. New York was really bad. So him and his wife were thinking of moving. And I told them that I was going to move to be closer to them because I was 45 minutes away. And when they're thinking about moving, they asked me, well, Kerry, they decided Las Vegas. And they're like, Kerry, would you move to Las Vegas with us? And I was shocked. I had been to Vegas once before when I was 16. And I don't know, do you know anything about Las Vegas?
Well, only from the movies. I mean, I've never been there, so.
Yeah. And like I had only been once, but it was to the strip, which is
Yeah,
where all the movies take place.
yeah.
I hadn't seen the amazing city outside of the strip, that there's rock climbing and mountains and neighborhoods. And like it's beautiful. But I didn't see any of that. And I'm like, why Las Vegas? But one of his athletes was out here, and Ryan Elrod, who's an amazing athlete, like such a sweet person, and he became my training partner when I moved. But yeah, then the next day I was like, okay, I'm in. I'll move to Vegas. So that was June 2020. By the time I moved at the end of June, I think we agreed it was like in April or May or something. I didn't have a house or anything, so packed up my stuff in my apartment. We hired a moving company together, and I flew out while they drove. Stayed with one of Ryan's friends who we met at Wadapalooza. I didn't really know her, but she's like, yeah, come stay with me. Super chill, super friendly, amazing. Ended up finding a house to rent about 10 days later. So then moved in there. And yeah, and then since then, Bethany's moved here, Danielle, Matt, Tola, and like you said, Allison Scud's just moved here. Like we have people that are like moving. So it's been really cool, and it's made it a lot more fun.
Yeah, Vegas is turning from a drinking city to a CrossFit city, it seems. changing the
Definitely.
rep of Vegas. I love it. So obviously, I mean, that was a big move so close to the games last year. And obviously paid off really well.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a big move. But anyone who saw me in New York, or like saw the gyms that I trained at, or the lifestyle that I had, they're like, I can't believe how successful of a CrossFitter you are with like living this kind of life. I mean, New York is like hustle and bustle. Like I was coaching, I was personal training, and even the gym that I was training at didn't have like pegboards or yokes or sandbags or ski ergs. Like we just got assault bikes, I don't know, like a couple months before. So it was like, and then I was going 45 minutes each way to like Justin's gym. And that was like, if everything was on time and perfect.
Yeah.
Some days it would take an hour 15. There was days it took an hour and a half if the subway system was shut down. So it was a lot, and it was hard training, like people everywhere, even like you're running. So it just wasn't ideal to train in. And I think I was too scared to get out of it, and I was just comfortable with what I had. And then when an opportunity came to go somewhere else, I was like, yes. And realizing what is in Vegas and just the training environment and everything that it had to offer was just so beneficial to training, that I was able to, like you said, do really well for the CrossFit Games and finish on the podium.
It was a challenging year. Different games to what we've all seen. I think ever since 2019, things have never actually been the same, and I think all of us are looking forward to some form of games and a season that we recognize. It's been more than a year since 2020, but I have to ask, just tell us about that week. It's 5 athletes, completely different to anything else that you guys have ever seen. You left nothing. You left everything out on the floor, especially in that last work. It was amazing to see. Just tell us about that week and training, competing in silence, just with 5 people.
Yeah, so I'll start at the beginning of the week. Me and my coach flew in on Sunday, and everyone had to get COVID tested on Monday. Then after we were COVID tested, we weren't allowed to leave the hotel or go anywhere or do anything outside of like our bubble. So Sunday we got there, we stocked up on, as much food and groceries as we could. We had a designated hotel. And after that, like Monday, everyone got COVID tested. We went to a gym to work out in the morning, and then got COVID tested. And then we were essentially in a bubble. So we ended up getting our COVID test, and then they like bussed us to and from. They're like, we don't even want you walking to potentially come in contact with anybody else. But luckily, like starting Tuesday, we were able to use the athlete warm-up area to work out in the field and everything. And they had 2 times, like in the morning and then the afternoon, that we could go to the venue and do whatever kind of training we wanted, if we wanted, or we could just stay at the hotel in your room. but each athlete was only given one hotel room, and you were allowed a +1. So I feel like each athlete brought their coach. So me and my coach, Justin Kotler, ended up sharing a hotel room for a week. And we're like, oh man, I'm glad we're as close as we are, because if you didn't get along with your coach, that could be a really long week.
What did Ashley say? What did his wife say?
And she was like laughing at it. She's like, good luck. He snores. So get earplugs. She bought me a coloring book. So I had that to do.
Okay.
We watched a lot of sports. I was like, I don't think I've ever watched this many sports in my life. But then again, we're stuck in a hotel room, and we were like doing laps. So like laps, I mean like walking back and forth in our hotel room. We would take turns. I would do stretching and stuff. And yeah, when we would FaceTime like Ashley and Ivy, and his little baby Jax. And it was really sad though, because Ivy was like, she would cry a lot of times, like, I miss you, Daddy. I was like, I feel so bad. Like, I stole her dad. He's like, she's fine. Like, and Ashley's like, she's okay. Like, as long as he's not seeing Justin, she's okay. Cause she like forgets because she's busy. And then we FaceTime, and then is like waterfall, like crying. And Ashley bought me like snacks and stuff. Ashley's great. She's amazing. She's like the mother of the underdogs family, which everyone needs, like we need to vent about training or jokes with Justin. Like, you have him doing what? That's too hard. That's too much. And he's like, but they need to be prepared. And so, she gives her 2 cents. She's awesome though. And yeah, so we were like in the hotel room, and yeah, I ended up like coloring Ivy a picture and stuff. So, gave it to her when I got back. Wednesday was the same thing. We could go and work out at the gym or the athlete warm-up area and stuff. And Rosie Joe was very amazing because they provided us food. So we didn't have to like cook meals, right? Because our hotel room it had a microwave and a mini fridge. And Yeti supplied us coolers. So it was great because we had a big cooler that like kept things cold. Our mini fridge, we had a microwave. And then Rosie Joe, like I said, had food, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then also supplied the athletes with meals. So I had meals that I like kept in my cooler in case I didn't want, like what they were making for everybody else, which is huge because, when you're competing, you need food, especially if you're in quarantine. So it's good having like that food like throughout the weekend. And then like Thursday, and then, competition started. And it was just such a cool, obviously it was a crazy year, but it was such a cool experience. Like just having the 5 athletes, the girls and guys, because even in the warm-up area, like at Morgan Hill, it was like the 5 girls on one side, the 5 guys on the other. So you like were like placed like directly across from one of the guys and directly next to one of the girls, and like, and like from one end to the other isn't very long. And so you just got to know the athletes better than any year prior, and the coaches, and then also like riding the bus to and from the ranch. The first day it was very, very quiet. Like everybody was just like, I think like nervous because it's the first time we had competed in front of people in a while. And it's the CrossFit Games, like everyone has trained so hard. They want to do their best. But then after the first ride, everyone like kind of opened up. Cause I think like for me too, like once the first event is done, then I kind of like ease into it. But it's like the first event that you get like butterflies and you're nervous. And then after that's over, you kind of like settle in. So I think everyone kind of just like loosened up after that. And it was just like an amazing experience for me and Justin. Obviously the part of being in the hotel room together and not killing each other. But also just that intimacy, like on like one example is the CrossFit Total. Never like has a coach been that close, like after my first squat attempt. He's like, okay, that looked good. Let's go up 10 pounds or whatever it was. Like I could go over and actually talk to him and like actually use my coach. Like I have a coach. So it's nice, like actually getting to use him. And just like having that connection during that event, or like the bike rope climb event, like I could hear him because he was like on the sideline. So it was really weird, not having spectators cheering and mute. Like during the first event, there was no music. Like it was really strange, especially being on a rower and you could just hear the other girls rowers, people breathing, but there was no music. And you're like, wait, this is something's off here. Yeah. And then you realize it's the music. And then especially like you said, the last event was just incredible. And it was awesome having Justin there during the whole event. Like besides the first run, I could basically hear him on everything. including the handstand push-ups, right into the pistols, into the pull-ups. Like I could hear him screaming and cheering for me. So that was just a different experience because usually you have the crowd, so you hear everybody screaming and you can kind of hear it. Like if you really listen, you can hear your coach. But this time, like there was nothing else you could listen to except your coach or someone else's coach or whatever. But like my brain just like selectively listened to my coach. And so that was like just a really, really cool experience and something different than has ever done before. So it was different and it was nice having a crowd again at semis this year, but I feel like 2020 will always have a special place in my heart for that reason.
That last event obviously got you onto the podium. What was the conversation prior to that event? Because you also said after when you were gasping for air, afterwards that your coach, damn him. What was the conversation? Because you actually had nothing to lose, just to win. And you came out flying that first round. Like you passed some good runners. And I'm like, whoa, I think everybody was like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And afterward, everyone was like, what are you doing? So I don't know. I have goosebumps right now, just like talking about it. So when Dave Castro announced it, he did it in Dave Castro style. And he was just like, okay, this is the hero workout of hero workouts. In your mind, you're like, okay, it's Murph. And then he's like, and then he's like, yeah, it's Murph. And then he's like, but we're taking out the middle part. And when he said that, and I was just like, he's going to put in some heavy barbell. It's going to be like heavy squat cleans or something. I was just like, and then he's like, we're going to do Mary. And I was just like, and me and my coach
good.
just looked at each other like, okay, like if there's a workout that I'm going to do well in, this is it. But also like, you can't take it for granted because number one, it's going to hurt. Like Murph, even if you're good at it, like on paper, you still have to do it. You still know it's going to be a lot of pain. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is great, but this also is going to hurt really, really bad. But basically like right after Dave announced it and like let us free to like go warm up, Justin just looks at me and he's like, this is yours, go get it. And like, just like dead serious. And like, I mean, I knew he was right because I was, like you said, I was in 5th place at the time out of 5 girls. But we were really close in points between 3rd and 5th. And if everything ended up right, then I could end up in 3rd place. And so in my mind, I knew I had to give it my best and I had to have no regrets. So it was like 3, 2, 1. And I just had this tunnel vision. It was something I've never experienced before. And I don't know, I probably won't ever experience it again just because what was on the line, just the way everything like built up, it was perfect. And yeah, 3, 2, 1, go. But Justin was like, okay, so for the first run, like you don't need to win it, but you need to like, stay close to Haley because she's, the one that you're going to have to beat in order to move up and potentially, get on the podium. And he's like, she's an amazing runner. Katrin's an amazing runner. They're all amazing runners. I was going to name everyone, but they're all amazing runners. But then I knew like the handstand push-ups were going to be great for me and like the body weight stuff would be good. So it's kind of just like, okay, like attack the handstand push-ups and then just try to keep moving on everything else. And then when I saw Katrin catching up to me on the pull-ups, it was like took a deep breath before my last set because I knew once that last set of pull-ups is done, it was hit the road and go. Like you have to run because I know she's an incredible runner. Like we saw, during the trail run, and I know she's an incredible runner. So I can't leave any doubt in my mind. And like, as I'm running, like you go down, you come around the curve, like you go to the road. And I heard Justin just like screaming at me. And I was like, okay, this is like, you have to do it for us. You're not doing it for you. Like, this is for us. And in the back of my mind too, it's like, after this, you get to rest as long as you want. Like, this is it. And like running, I was probably about halfway done. Well, not even halfway, probably like a third of the way done. I like looked back, I didn't see Katrin. I was like, okay, so this is good. And then like got to the turnaround, Kate started coming back and I saw Katrin and I was like, okay, she's not running very fast. So it's like, if I can just keep running, like in your mind, you're like, well, I can walk a little bit. Like I would be fine. And it's like, no, don't give yourself that out. Like, I don't want any regrets. Like I walk for a little bit and then all of a sudden I keep walking, or then Katrin, maybe she speeds up and passes me. It was like, don't give yourself that out. Like you can walk when you're done. You can rest when you're done. So that was in the back of my mind. And yeah, I crossed the finish line, won the workout, and it was just waiting to see, who finished next and whatever. And once everybody else had finished, like I just looked at Justin and I was like, does that mean I got on the podium? Because I didn't know like exactly the way the points had to fall. And he just like looked at me and had the biggest smile on his face. And like,
Oh, wow.
I just started crying. And I think Buttery Bros are actually the only one that caught it. And it's apparently like in the Redemption movie. So I was like, I need to watch that. I need to contact them and be like, that's the only, like, I want that part of the movie. I mean, obviously I want the whole movie, but I was like, I just want like that because of my CrossFit career, like if I have one like defining moment on it, it's like finishing that event, being there with Justin, and then crying with Justin. Like it's like clear as day in my mind, just like how it happened. It's one of those things like I'll never forget.
And that obviously gave you a taste of the podium, and you're a born competitor. You've been competing from a very, very young age. So your sights is clearly, obviously set on the gold. What will it take to get there, to knock off our 5-time fittest woman on earth, Tia? Is it frustrating competing against her?
As yes and no. It's just incredible. Like because I feel like you see all of the other athletes and like everybody works so hard. Everybody's so fit. Everybody's so talented. Everybody like is at the top of their game. But she's just like so well rounded. Like everyone else, like you look at them and they're like, okay, well, she's not good at this. She's not that strong. She could use more work on her endurance. You just see Tia and you're like, okay, well, she's good at running. She's good at swimming. She's really, really strong. Like when it comes to like the weightlifting stuff, like her muscle ups are insane. And it's just like she has like no holds. And like handstand walking was one of her holds. And like this year, even with like the parallettes and stuff, like she gets fourth place in a handstand walk event. And you're just like, she just keeps getting better and better. When you think she's like amazing and phenomenal and as good as she can be, she just like keeps raising the bar for herself. So it is frustrating, but it's also just like very motivating and like inspiring to see her like just compete and be so good at everything. And I feel like it's kind of like Matt Fraser, like you're like, oh, somebody actually beat her in a workout. Like you just expect her to win everything.
Yeah.
But with that being said, like everyone has off days. Like nobody is perfect. So I think like, in order for someone to beat Tia, then it's not that they're gonna have to be their best. Like she's gonna have an off day and you're gonna have to be at your best.
Mm. No, it's absolutely inspiring. I just wanted, being a competitor next to her, and it just literally seems like she is getting better. Yes, it was known, her handstand walks. It's not. It's a whole income. If you look at whatever else she's doing and how great she is and everything else, but this year she clearly proved that it's not a hole no more. So tell us about starting to train with Bethany and Danielle. The training camp thing. I'm calling it a thing. It's becoming more of a trend, with the games athletes. So how did that change your training and push you more?
It just made it so much more fun. I mean, I told people like if I'm being honest, like last year after the games, I was in thoughts of retiring and I didn't know if I wanted to, compete last year because it just as you said, like 2020 took a lot out of everybody. And I think like as an athlete, people don't see like so for me, like I feel like everybody's different. But for me, like in March, COVID started and I was supposed to compete at West Coast Classic. The day before I was supposed to fly to California, I got a message from O'Keefe, who's in charge of Loud and Live, saying, West Coast, we're going to have to postpone West Coast Classic. Like they were like, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. But then like that was when the NBA like postponed it or canceled itself, and then the Olympics and everything like, and they're like, yeah, okay, I guess we're not going to do it. So I was like, okay. And then I feel like just like everyone else, you're like, okay, so what is like the severity of this? How is this going to affect like long-term plans and everything? So I was like, okay, well, lost a little bit of motivation because I'm like, okay, well, this isn't going to happen. And then shortly after, they're like, okay, Rogue is going to be online. And you're like, there's no way the games are going to happen. And like CrossFit kept saying the games are going to happen. They're going to happen. They didn't say how or when or anything, but they're like, they're going to happen. And even so, like, you're like, yeah, but like the Olympics of all things, the Olympics just got pushed to next year. How are you going to make the games happen? Especially because they did not want to do it online, which I think is fair. So I lost a little bit of motivation for like a couple weeks, but then I was like, okay, why do we do this? I do this for me. So kept competing, but then like we didn't know when the games were going to be. We thought, okay, end of July, like normal, perfect. Then they're like beginning of August, end of August, beginning of September, middle of September. So it ended up being the middle of September. So you're trying to keep this like peak shape from like July through what ended up being October. So it just took a big toll. Bethany had called me and was like saying that she was interested in moving to Las Vegas, born and raised in Texas, just wanted a change. Then when we did stage 1 with Danielle, she was like, Danielle, would you be interested in moving to Vegas? And she thought about it a little bit. She's like, yeah, sure, why not? So just having them move to Vegas just made it so much more fun because you're like-minded people, you're training together, you're pushing each other, and there's just something about having other people. And especially me and Bethany have just gotten really close. Like we did all of our training together, we would do the recovery together. So you form this special bond and you see what somebody else goes through. And like also for me, stage 1 last year, Bethany and Danielle, especially Bethany, she was the one that originally like ended up switching. So we did stage 1 together, not at the same time because we weren't allowed to, but it was like one and the next and the next. And we agreed that we are all going to go first on one day. So Danielle went first the first day, Bethany went first the second day, then I was supposed to go first the third day. And they saw that I was forgot, it was either 10th or I should remember, but it was either 10th or 11th place. And Bethany's like, I'll go first. Like Kerry has a chance at making top 5. Like I'll go first so she can see my workout and then she can try and beat me. Which I mean, in the sport of CrossFit, never happens. Never. Like I bet if you asked any other athlete to do that, even if they're in 20th place, no, they wouldn't do it because they want to, be as good as they could. So just from like seeing that, it was just like eye-opening. Like she's so much more than an athlete. Like she's such an amazing person and has such a great heart. And like I dedicate like me getting on the podium to her because if she hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have been in the top 5. I wouldn't have gotten games. I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. And so like for me, it was kind of like, okay, like I want to help her as much as possible. And that's why I was like so bummed at the games. It was almost more bummed for her than it was for me because she was so fit and like she's super positive and she's like, well, like there's going to be next year and it's all like building. Like I'm glad I was able to compete at West Coast and show everyone. And I was like, I agree. And I'm really excited for next year because now I think she's like super hungry. So I'm like, I know she can get on the podium if she like is as fit as she was this year. Like I have no doubt in my mind. So it's just been, sorry, I'm like rambling on, but it's just been amazing. Seeing her and Danielle like both grow as athletes and individuals. And the boys that we have too are both awesome. Tola and Matt are super talented. They just like make it fun. Like Tola just start randomly dancing. Matt's just like a super sweetheart. So it's been just, it's so much more fun when you have other people. And then obviously like you push each other more than you would by yourself because as I tell people, like everybody has good days and bad days. And the days where you have a bad day, like even if you go to the gym, you're going to push yourself more than you would by yourself, or you're going to do programming where you're like, well, maybe I'll do that, or I'll save it for another day where I feel better. And it's like, no, like they're going to make sure you do it. So it's every day that you like end up pushing yourself. So you just get better because of that.
Danielle is obviously a lot younger than yourself, and you had a very successful gymnastics career, and that came to an end after you finished college. How long can you continue at this level of CrossFit? You mentioned earlier something about thinking about retirement. Is that something still in your sights, or how does the future for you? How does the future look for Kerry in the sport of CrossFit?
Yeah, so that's actually something I like am dealing with right now. I'm trying to think about like I'm trying to figure it out. And like I said, it's not even physically. Like I feel like it's more mentally than anything for me because I've been competing. I started competing in gymnastics at 5 years old, so I was super young. And then even since then, like I competed in gymnastics through college, through when I was 21. Right after that, I did a weightlifting competition. Right after that, I did a physique competition. Right after that, powerlifting. Then I started CrossFit. So it was like kind of this like continuation of different sports and competing, and I've always had to be like just mentally on and physically on. And like I said, last year, like I had thoughts of like, okay, this like maybe I'm gonna be done. And like even at the games this year, like I don't want to say I was like 100% settled on it, but I was like pretty sure like, okay, this is gonna be it. So I think for me, that's why it hurt more than anything else. It wasn't necessarily even competing. I just wanted like some sort of closure for myself because I finished on the podium last year and I'm like, I want to do well this year. And then like, I'm good. Like I'm such a competitive person. Like I love working out and I love training, but unless I know I'm going to be like top 5 at the games, I don't want to compete. And because my business, like I have like my powerhouse business is doing so well right now too. It's been so cool, like seeing how many people we've been able to impact, to positively impact that way. I feel like that's like slowly becoming my passion. And I think it's come at perfect time too, because I'm like mentally like, kind of ready to like step aside from CrossFit at least for a year. Like I want to do Rogue. I want to compete just for myself, not to prove anything to anybody else, but just because I have a hole from not competing right now. So I want to do that. I'll see how I feel and kind of evaluate after that. I'm like, there's a thought of team, especially being, in Vegas with a bunch of other amazing athletes. But if I have to say anything right now, then I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see what happens in a couple months and then kind of go from there.
Well, we'll keep our eyes and our ears open and definitely watch you at Rogue. Maybe it's the last time, maybe not, hopefully not, but you've left everything on the floor for so many years, majority of your life, as a gymnast, as a powerlifter, as a weightlifter, and for so many years as a CrossFitter. You spoke about your business. I want to talk about that, your Power Abs business. You post on your social media page, the Power Abs page, so much about people, lives that you've changed. Where did this come from? Obviously, a strong core in any form of sport, specifically CrossFit, is so important. But with your gymnastics background, we've seen so many videos on YouTube and on the internet of gymnasts just doing the most insane things. So where did this come from, and how did it grow over the past few years?
Yeah, so it came from actually a businessman in New York City contacted me. It originally started because he wanted me to coach him through gymnastic stuff for CrossFit, and he's like, "You're one of the best gymnasts like in the CrossFit world. How come you don't have a gymnastic program?" He was a master's athlete and wanted to learn handstand push-ups. So we sat down and talked for about 3 hours. Just he was picking my brain, I was kind of picking his brain. And we started off as Pearce pointers, which was going to be like tips for CrossFitters and gymnastics. Then his assistant one day was just like, "Me and my husband are obsessed with your abs. We need an abs program." So she like mentioned it to Larry Connors, who was the businessman, and they addressed me about it. And I'll never forget where I was sitting when they said that. And I'm just like, that is a genius idea. I love it. Because like you said, gymnasts have such strong cores and it's just different movements than what you see a lot of people do. Like I was a personal trainer for a little bit and you see people in the gym doing the same things all the time and not getting results. And like, it's frustrating for you watching. I can't imagine like how frustrating it is for them. And I mean, just through gymnastics, like I've always had abs and I've, like I said, always gotten compliments on them. And because I was a personal trainer, like I was like, there's a way you can make this fun and do different things. And then I kind of threw like a little CrossFit twist into it just by like having it be like higher intensity. So people are going to like, burn calories. People are like, well, abs are made in the kitchen. I'm like, yes, they are. But you can also, if you have high intensity exercise, you're going to be burning more calories. So if you're eating the exact same and you're burning more calories, then you are going to lose weight and you're going to lose fat and you're going to see some definition. So we came out with Power Abs in December 2018, and now we are nearing 200,000 people doing it around the world. So it's been amazing. It's been so cool. And yeah, we have like a Facebook group with 68,000 people, and it's just like people are so positive and motivating and inspiring. And Rachel Bowles, who's in charge of the Facebook group, has done such an amazing job making it positive. Because I feel like, especially with COVID, like there's so much negative in the world that it's easy to be negative and to be down on yourself. Or, I mean, we see the internet trolls like down on others, that like the Facebook group is just so positive and inspiring and motivating and stuff. Like it's a breath of refreshing air in such a crazy world.
Absolutely. So just for the people listening and watching that's maybe not familiar with Power Abs and how the program works, just give us a brief explanation. Obviously, you've got Power Abs and then you've got 2 or 3 or 2 programs after that, if you want to get even better abs, So just quickly give us an explanation of how it works.
Yeah. So when we were creating the program, we're like, why don't people stick with programs or stick with exercise regimens? And one thing we're like is time. So the main thing that we focused on is 10 minutes a day. So each workout is no longer than 10 minutes, and there's no equipment needed. So there's really no excuse not to do it. You basically just need a floor and you can get in your power abs workout. They're all 30-day programs. So like you said, we have power abs, which is like the base program. Basically any fitness level can do it unless you haven't been working out. Then we also have introduction to power abs. So that's like off the couch, you need something to get you started again. That same thing, 10 minutes, no equipment needed. And then, yeah, we have Power Abs 2.0, Summer Power Abs, Extreme Power Abs. Then we branched off into other body parts because people loved abs so much. They're like, well, what about glutes? What about legs? What about arms? So we have programs for all of those as well. And it's all online. There's videos, everything's written out, videos of the workouts, and also video tutorials, just going over things to think about, things to focus on, what not to do. So it breaks everything down.
And if people want to join and get in touch, where can they go?
The website for all of the programs is powerabs.shop. So power, Power, abs, ABS .shop. And if they want to learn more about me, like obviously like my Instagram, Kari Pearce CrossFit, or my website, karipearce.com, those both have like more information like about myself, and then they have like links to the programs and stuff too.
Kerry, whenever you decide to hang up the nanos or NoBulls or whatever it is you guys are wearing, what does the future look like? You have your business, but long term, you're still very young. You obviously are very passionate about sports and performance and helping people. Long term, what does your life look like?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I feel like recently I've been doing like more reflecting on that, and definitely like just continuing to grow Power Abs, just because it is so amazing just to see how many lives we've impacted for the better, and just people getting more confidence, feeling better, looking better, all of the above. So I think it's really cool, being an athlete and getting fit for yourself, but nothing beats helping other people. So I definitely want to continue with Power Abs for a while, just, continuing to grow that. And then I also for myself, like I love working out. So I'm going to continue working out. I joke with people. It's like, yeah, I'm only going to work out 2 hours a day. And they're like, you're crazy. I was like, well, but it's like different than, the 4 to 6. And I was like, I need it like for myself, just because I love working out. I love it. And I actually recently did a speech for some members of the Air Force. And I was like, that was a lot of fun. And I've had people reach out to me about that, because they're like, you're so inspiring. Like, you have such a cool story and you've been able to accomplish so much and you've been so successful. So I think like speaking would be definitely like a cool route to take. It was very, very nerve-wracking, but similar to anything else, like something that's new is going to get you out of your comfort zone. I think I sweat more during that than even in like Atalanta. But I think like something like that is cool, because like I said, I love working out and I love doing things for myself, but it's really cool being able to share my successes and my journeys and things I've learned along the way with other people.
And will Vegas be home for now?
I think so. I love Vegas. The sunshine is amazing. The people are super friendly. They're down to earth, and like, I don't know. It's sunny every day. Like I think it rains maybe like 10 days a year. And I mean, the summer gets super, super hot, but there's pools, and then the winter is perfect. So I really like it. I enjoy it, and my family, fingers crossed, my mom and dad are thinking of retiring out here.
Oh, wow.
So they came to visit. They loved it, but they're deciding like between a couple places. But I was like, Vegas, Vegas, Vegas. So especially if they move here, then I'll definitely stay.
And Kerry, you forgot to mention the strip. Obviously, you like the strip as well. I'm kidding.
Oh, I love this trip. I love it. Though they recently opened up Cirque shows. So yeah, I'm not going to be doing any of like the crazy partying, drinking. Yeah, I went to a pool, like a pool day club or whatever once, and I was like, check, done, off my list. It was like in a VIP booth and everything with other CrossFitters, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm good. But there is like some good restaurants, so I'm gonna, do those. But the other crazy party scene things, yeah, no, not for me. Cirque shows, uh, definitely.
I thought we were going to see you, as part of a pom-pom show, one of those Vegas girls with some feathers and stuff.
There we go. Maybe that's gonna be my secret. I'm not telling everyone that that's gonna actually be my future.
Kerry, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and good luck. And good luck at the Rogue Invitational. Looking forward to see the hard work from last year, and unfortunately couldn't see it at the games, but now we're going to see it at the Rogue Invitational. Good luck with that, and whatever you decide, thank you for what you're still doing for the sport of CrossFit. It's amazing, and your legacy lives on. Whatever you decide. Thanks so much for your time, and good luck.
Of course, and thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Just Elite. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and please, please, please leave a comment.